I had this revelation today. When I was walking to the store, I was listening to, and I usually listen to an audiobook or podcast or something like that. So today was no different. I was listening to a talk on money, and the speaker was talking about some of his childhood wounds. And if you've ever studied anything about money, they always coach you to go and think about the things your parents may have said to you about money, like money doesn't grow on trees, and who do you think I am, Rockefeller, that kind of thing. And I've heard that so many times that I kind of just ignore it when I hear someone talking about that stuff because my parents never made me feel like rich people were evil, or they never really, I don't remember any phrases that they said that would lead me to believe that having money is bad. However, today for the first time, I did realize a wound that I had that I didn't recognize. And it wasn't based on anything that my parents said, it was based on what I observed. So, two things. One thing was something that I witnessed. I went to court with my mother after my dad left us and stuck her with all the bills, right? Which she couldn't pay on her own and having to raise two children. So she was sued for the credit cards, was dragged into court. And my mom is very tough, very stern, very strong. But in that courtroom, the representative for the company was on the other side. And the judge asked my mom, "Do you have anything to say?" And I could tell she was just overcome with emotion, and she just sort of bowed her head and shook her head. And that broke my heart as a child, watching your mother go through that. And I was probably 10, 11 or so. I think it was 10. So to see your parent, the one remaining parent, helpless was devastating. And I think what I synced up in my mind is not that having money is bad, but that companies are bad. And unfortunately for me, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, being in business. And I never connected the two, that I have a negative association with businesses, not money per se, not individuals who have money. But I think in somewhere in my mind, I linked up businesses hurt people. They steal money from single moms. They're cruel because one of the things that the representative of the company said, of course, my mom lost. She had to pay the money, ended up having to file bankruptcy. But what that guy said to her on the way out, my mom said to him, because he passed us, and she said, "You know, this isn't right." And he said, "It's the law." And there was nothing that we could say to that. Technically, it's the law. The fact that my father stuck us with the bills and that they knew she didn't have the money, they sued her anyway. It just left a large impression on me that I really didn't recognize until today. I said to myself, it's not what you hear necessarily people say about money, it's what you witness, right? So that left a scar in my heart that I'm going to have to start healing if I ever want to make the kind of money that I know I'm capable of making. The second revelation was that, and this is directly an experience I had with my mom, is that I was naturally a saver, and my mom is naturally more of a spendthrift. She's Sagittarius. Sagittarius tend to be very free, very open, free spirited. And I'm a Leo. I like nice things. I save money. I enjoy saving money. I used to stack up my little coins. I had a bank account early on. I loved opening my statement. And back then, there were written statements, seeing that printout of the money that was accumulating. And my mom would borrow the money and never pay it back. And at first, I kept accumulating it, and then it would be taken. Kept accumulating it, it would be taken. And if I tried to ask for it back, I would get screamed at and shamed and everything else. So I just stopped saving money, right? And I think in my head, I linked up that there is really no point in accumulating a lot of money because either a company will take it from you, or a loved one will take it from you. So what is the point? So these two revelations meant a lot to me because these are things I'm going to have to work on now to heal. But B, it really spoke to me about why I paint what I paint as an artist. I am drawn to painting the upper classes. There's something about a wealthy person of color that is especially poignant because the system was designed to keep us down. We were meant to be the permanent underclass. We were never meant to compete freely with the dominant society. And that's why they keep doing things to try to prevent us from competing directly with them. Because when we do compete on a fair and even plane, which it never has been a fair and even plane, but at least legally, theoretically, it's a free and open plane. And we see that so many of us have made millions of dollars. So many of us have learned to accumulate money. People are starting to talk about generational wealth. Even not just recently, but immediately after slavery was over, you would see people start to build businesses. We have the Black Wall Street, Rosewood, all these, centers of Black excellence that were destroyed by white envy and jealousy and rage. So that's an ongoing issue, is that we are extremely capable of making money, but it is a sore spot for the dominant society, which has in its head that we are supposed to permanently be underclass. We are permanently to be struggling and working for them. So I think that studying the upper classes, studying wealth it's not like other groups that learn to be wealthy. When other groups learn to be wealthy, it's just about having the money, especially the dominant society. But when we make money, it is a political statement. It is an act of resistance. When we make money, it is against all odds. Even now, it is against all odds. So my painting of the upper classes and Black beauty, these are acts of resistance. We are not supposed to be considered beautiful. That statue in Times Square in New York is very controversial for that reason. Some of us feel like, why is such an average, why is such a basic representation of us? And I think all art is beautiful. I don't have a problem with the statue per se, but it is interesting that such a basic depiction of us is what's being held up. And it's okay, but at the same time, the resistance is in going above and beyond because we are expected to be basic. So, my painting of the aristocrats of our community is a direct statement that we are capable of that. We are more than capable of that. When Black people go into business for themselves and get out of the microaggressions that come with corporate, we tend to soar. We tend to be naturally gregarious. We tend to be natural salespeople, and not natural meaning inborn. Just we have traits that have taught us, through survival to get along, to have community. We connect. We have sense of humor. We're creative, right? These are things that help us do well in business. So, like right now, I'm reading an audiobook about A.G. Gaston, one of the first, either the first or one of the first Black millionaires. And I'm loving it. I've read the book already, but now I'm listening to the audiobook. And it's important. It's important for us to have visual and visual representations, like with my art, and actual examples like A.G. Gaston of people who have made it. My ancestor, Junius George Groves, he was a great uncle. First, he was a potato farmer, one of the first Black multimillionaires. It's important to know that we come from an extraordinarily elevated line of people. We are not chattel slaves. We are not meant to be permanent underclass. Other people may mean for us to be that, but that's not what God created us to be. So, if you want to join a community of like-minded people of color that are interested in elevating in excellence, in aristocracy, and being the very best we can be, educated, well-mannered, well-spoken, out and proud, and involved in our society in a positive way, I'm creating a zine that hasn't come out yet, but I'm taking signups. It'll be free, but it'll be an exclusive community, and not everyone will be accepted because I really want this to be a protected space where people that are Black people that are aspirational and even allies but those would be very selective. It's very important that the community be protected because the envy, white envy, and other group envy is extremely can be extremely damaging. So this community is going to be exclusive. I'm going to be talking about my art, but also culture and things like wine, luxury, travel, things like that, things to inspire us as a group. Because as things get more and more crazy with our current person in chief, our current sitting president, and all that that represents, it's going to be very important for us to be very dialed in to our purpose and to ignoring all of that noise and creating the kinds of lives that we're meant to create. So I hope that this has been helpful. If you have your own money wounds, share them with me in the comments. I would love to hear about that. And until next time, have a beautiful and blessed day.